welcome to this tutorial. This beat is kind of like a OSAMASON, Lucy Bedrock sort of type beat, but it's really inspired by MALICE MIZER, if you've ever heard them. I know they're kind of big on TikTok now. And that general visual K scene in the 90s, it was mostly inspired by the song No Pains, No Gains, and that's on their second album. So if you check that out, there's a lot of similarities. So I'll get started. The way that I started this beat was with these hits. I think they're from the XV5080 Roland. So I started with just this hit, and it's in the Phrygian mode. The Phrygian mode is really popular with the OSAMASON type beats, so that's why I kind of label it like that. Basically, you just drop the 2 a half step, and it makes it really dark. So I'll play this. So that's one hit, and it's kind of going from ear to ear. So that's techno hit 2, and then I have a hit that reverses. It's just called reverse hit. And when you play them together, it sounds really nice. So that just sounds super good, super full, way better than one hit. And then I have another hit, a super basic one. This is in Xenology and everything, and I use it more as melody. So I'll just play that by itself. And that's, I think, just playing the 3rd and 5th of the chord. So it's completing the chords. So and then I have this the Hunker Bari preset from the Roland XV, and it's playing a super simple Phrygian pattern. So that's very OSAMASON-esque, and I have a lead right here, also from the Roland XV. I was using it a lot. It's just this. So again, very OSAMASON, and then I have these strings right here, the bright strings. So I'm using a lot of half steps to make it darker. And then I have a fake drum kit right here. I think it's from Xenology as well. I was using one called Bully Kit, so that's why it's called that. And it's just playing this. It's kind of silly sounding when it's by itself, but when you put it together with the real drums and with the guitars and stuff on top of it, it sounds really cool. It's just a nice texture, and you don't hear a lot of these old synth drum kits. These Roland banks are all based on stuff from like the 90s and early 2000s. So it gives it a really anachronistic, cool sound. And then the guitars are right here. They're just pan left and right like normal. So you can tell it's pretty sloppy, but they're clean guitars. They're just playing the root notes, strumming. It's pretty basic. So altogether, the intro, it's pretty powerful. It sounds like this. So that was the intro. I made basically all that stuff before I did anything else in the beat. It's sort of a laid back, spooky kind of 90s vibe. I got some drum MIDI. I made this tom roll right here into this part. So here's the drum MIDI for the second part. It's kind of weird. And these drums are the Crim drums. I did mix these, but not super intensively. I didn't really use very many EQs or bus compression or anything like that. But I brought in some distorted guitars for this second part, and they sound like this. Of course, they're panned left and right, like all your guitars are going to be in these type of beats. So super messy, but I'm just playing the power chords of the root notes, and then I'm palm muting. It just gives it a more metal edge, and then I have a bass going on as well. This isn't bass. This is it's a lead guitar. Sorry, I mislabeled that. And it's just sliding up and down a little bit, giving it a little bit of character. So. I think I'm playing half chords. I'm basically just following this lead right here, doing more stuff in Phrygian. And then I have this Cashmere exhaust, so that's really just helpful to add a little bit of life to it. And then I have my tag as well. If you put your tag in a really cool spot, it can really add a lot to the beat. So. So that section sounds pretty weird, but it's pretty laid back. It's not super up-tempo, so it transitions really well into the rap part. And the only new melody I have playing is this dirty sync lead, and it's playing the same thing the strings were playing earlier. So. And that's also from Roland XV. And then I have my drums right here. And all this stuff is Misogi. This 2 Hollis kick is from a Prod Clueless kit. I really like that kick. It adds a lot of transient to it. None of these drums are super complicated here. I like longer tails on the 808s because it blends better with the guitar. I took all the guitars out. This really isn't a super guitar heavy beat because it doesn't really need to be. A lot of the 90s Malice Mizer and Visual K stuff actually does not have a lot of guitars in it sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But that's basically like the first verse, and then you have this pre-chorus right here. So there's a lot going on there. The main thing is I'm using the hits as a melodic element. So that's the 6-7-1 progression. I talked about it in another video. And then I have the melodic hits going down to the next note in the chord. So. So that adds a lot to it. And I have a lead also just following the root. You can't really hear that, but it adds something. And then I have a Mellotron organ as well. And that's just filling it up. And then I have kicks doing a pretty basic like dance pattern. And then these snares on the 2 and 4. And that does not sound very good by itself, but I brought in Amen break from some kid on Reddit. And that's really dirty, and it brings a lot of life to this section as well. And then I have guitars playing as well, and they're just following the root notes. But I brought back the lead from the other part, and there is an 808 going, and it's just following the kick as well. So again, the 6-7-1 progression is super good for any of these pre-choruses, and having an Amen break here is kind of a weird choice, but it adds to the continuity of using these acoustic drums right here. The next part is just like a totally rage part, so I'll play that. So I have a few things going on here. I have the hits playing the root notes, which is the same thing as the 808. So and I have the melodic hit, and it's just playing a lot of stuff. It's basically just playing the root note, then going up, then back down. And that's the core of the beat. And then I have this synth right here. Again, it's, let me check. Yeah, it's from the Sunboy kit. I use this specific synth a lot because it mixes really well with the guitars. This looks complicated. A lot of stuff in FL kind of looks intimidating and complicated. I'm basically just playing the chords over and over and putting little transition notes in between. So if you just put the chords down and then put notes in between till it sounds good, it's not super hard. And then I have the dirty sync. I think it's playing a slightly different thing. It's playing basically what it was playing at the start, but not in Phrygian. So and then I have, this is kind of two Hollis type of thing. This is a piano sound font from RuneScape. Or it's a bell. It's good to use these old sound fonts from video games just because they have a really unique sound. And this is just going up. So that kind of thing where it's just going up a few notes. I didn't have it go 2, 3, 4. I had it go 3, 4, 5 because if you do 2, 3, 4, it sounds a little darker. That's going to make it super epic, very interesting. Hi-hats, again, are just doing two-step snares, super simple. And then I have accent hi-hats right here. They're kind of like a laser sound. And they're playing this pattern. And that's just to add interest to make it more exciting for this part. And the next part is kind of a more interesting part. It's where making these type beats gets really interesting. So I have this transition here. So that's super abrupt. It's a very abrupt change. If you've heard Malice Mizer, they do that a lot. They do it on, like, I think Sunikis and Bel Air. Both of them basically cut out mid-song and have a little instrumental bridge, basically. So I switch it to, I believe I'm switching it to a 6/8 time signature, and I'm using 2 harpsichords. They're playing the same thing, but they're panned left and right. So this is the MIDI right here. Again, it looks complicated. It's not at all. I think I just raise the thirds of the chords up an octave. And for the right panned harpsichords, all I did was make it go a little faster. If you change the left and right pan stuff a little bit, it can add some interest to it and make it sound more complicated than it really is. And then I brought some of those hits back, and then I put a bass in for this part. Again, this sounds a lot more complicated. It's not really doing a lot. I'm just bringing this D sharp up 1 and then the B up 1. Just gives it a more minor characteristic. It makes it a little darker. And then this is just running up the scale. The bass is just following the root notes, and I have some strings with the harpsichord chords. So that just gives it a little more layers. A few more layers, and then the drums are playing a pretty standard 6/8 pattern. And then this in part right here is really just a tail. So whenever you do this stuff where it's going down, and I'm using the harmonic minor, so the 7th is raised up 1. That's a really like Baroque thing to do. That's a good way to make a in portion. And then I brought it all back with this part. So I'm basically just reintroducing this hit sound and making it come back a little bit. And then I have some effects as well. I think this is basically exactly the same as the start. I just, instead of the honker bar, which is like a saxophone, I added the synth from the Sunboy kit. So super basic, this pattern right here. That's just the hits. There's no other melodic aspects to it. And then I bring the pre-chorus back so you can kind of see in the full beat. I have a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then a slightly longer verse, pre-chorus, chorus. And I do have an outro here. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's using Mellotron sounds, which I like to use because it's like the Beatles. But oh yeah, right before, after the chorus, there's like a chorus 2 where I'm doing more crazy stuff with the melodic hits, but I don't have the RuneScape piano and stuff like that, so it's not as crazy. But it just gives it a little more time to settle down, so it's not so abrupt. I also brought the Mellotron keys in for this part. I think all these Mellotron stuff, yeah, it's just from the Mellotron, which is Arturia. I know a lot of people have these Arturia plugins. All of those, I think they're also in Analog Lab as well. So for this outro part, I think this is just hits here. So that's pretty silly. It's kind of ambient. I brought one of the melodies back. This is kind of like a dark pedal tone melody. Pedal tone means I keep going back to that G sharp and I'm just changing every note in between. And then I have the mellow strings playing what the sync lead and the other stuff were playing earlier. And that's basically just introducing those sounds for this outro right here. So this is the outro. This is pretty basic. I'm just going 1 6 7 1 6 7 and putting some fillers in between to make it sound more interesting. And then I have the Mellotron organ. Again, it looks complicated. It's not really that complicated. I'm just playing the first, third, and fifths of the chords with a few notes in between. It just makes it sound a little busier and more intricate. And the bass in this is, it's probably from a Prod Clueless kit. Oh no, this is Sunboy Bass Exiled, again, Serum 2. And I put this ambience here from, I used to make a lot of dubstep, so the Excellent, Skrilla and Brostep have a lot of really good effect stuff like risers and transitions, so that's just wind to make it more atmospheric. So that kind of sounds different than the rest of the beat, but it's like a Beatles type thing. And then for the end, I wanted something super abrupt, kind of scary, so I just brought back this idea. So that's basically it for this kind of beat. So like in the last beat, the most important thing is the arrangement. So I could have done without this entire middle section here, and it probably could have been done better, but I think it's cool to do interesting stuff like time signature changes. So having these interesting bridges and melodic sections where you aren't rapping or singing, or the person on it isn't rapping or singing, that's going to bring a lot more intrigue to it. It's going to make it a lot more progressive. So if you notice, there's not a lot of guitars on here, and that's because the harpsichords and stuff are functioning basically as another acoustic performance instrument in place of that. So there could have been guitars, but it would have taken away from the like creepy vibe. So I think this is just a super unique beat. It's very visual K style. There's a lot you can get from Malice Mizer, from Madeth Grail, from After Image. from these 90s visual kei bands when that visual kei boom was happening. A lot of super interesting ideas that you can bring into the fold, because they were using the Phrygian scale the same way we do now in OSAMASON type beats, and they were using Roland synthesizers just like we are now, you know. And the guitar stuff, I mean, the type of guitar plugins we have now, I use the 93 MLC. It's a Bogren amp. Super good. It has basically everything you need for this kind of thing. I think my clean guitars are, yeah, they're the same thing. So that's what to keep in mind for this kind of stuff. Just be creative. For these kinds of beats, another good piece of advice, even if you're not doing guitars or something more progressive, is have a section in Phrygian, maybe a verse or an intro. And then for the chorus or pre-chorus or bridge, make it more melodic again. Bring it back into the Aeolian or maybe harmonic minor, but change the chords up, because that's going to give the listener, it's going to perk the listener up, so they're not listening to just this monotone, dark thing. They'll get a big change when you bring in more melodic stuff for a verse or a pre-chorus, and it makes the Phrygian stuff sound even darker when you bring it back. So that's this tutorial. I don't really have anything else to say about this. Thank you for watching. I'll try to drop some more tutorials soon, so thanks for watching.